Shalom, my friends. Have you ever noticed that the harder you worry about money, the worse your financial situation becomes? Here's what nobody tells you about wealth creation. Anxiety repels it, but discipline attracts it. Today, I'm going to show you why God responds to the steady flame of disciplined action, not to the frantic fire of financial panic. And here's the revelation that changes everything. Your anxiety isn't protecting you from poverty, it's creating it. I'm Rabbi Shimon, the architect of Torah life. And before you click away thinking this is another religious lecture, let me be crystal clear about something. What I'm about to share with you has transformed the financial lives of thousands of people, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and completely secular individuals. Because these aren't religious rules, these are universal principles encoded in the Torah over 3,000 years ago. Principles that explain why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth while others work themselves to exhaustion and stay broke. And the difference comes down to one thing: the quality of the fire burning inside you. In the Torah, there's a profound teaching about two types of fire that can burn on the altar of your life. There's the Esh Zara, the strange fire that Aaron's sons offered and were destroyed for bringing. And there's the Esh Tamid, the eternal flame that was commanded to burn continuously on the altar, never to go out. These aren't just ancient rituals, they're psychological blueprints for how energy moves in your life. The strange fire represents anxious action, frantic, impulsive, desperate attempts to force outcomes. The eternal flame represents disciplined action, steady, consistent, aligned movement toward your purpose. Most people are burning the wrong fire in their financial lives, and they wonder why they're getting burned instead of blessed. Think about your own financial behavior for a moment. When you're anxious about money, what happens? You check your bank account obsessively. You make panicked decisions. You take jobs you hate because you're desperate. You spend money trying to feel better about not having money. You say yes to opportunities that aren't right for you because you're afraid to say no. This is strange fire. It burns hot and chaotic, but it consumes everything and produces nothing but smoke. Your nervous system is in constant fight-or-flight mode, your cortisol levels are elevated, your decision-making capacity is compromised, and your energy is scattered in 1,000 directions. You're working hard, but you're working against the natural flow of abundance. Now contrast that with the eternal flame of discipline. When you operate from discipline instead of anxiety, you make decisions from clarity instead of panic. You show up consistently even when you don't feel motivated. You honor your commitments to yourself even when nobody's watching. You invest in your growth even when results aren't immediate. You maintain your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. You keep your word even when it costs you. This steady, unwavering flame is what catches God's attention, not because God is impressed by your willpower, but because disciplined action aligns you with the natural laws of how resources flow in the universe. The Torah teaches us that God doesn't respond to our panic. He responds to our partnership. And partnership requires the steady flame, not the strange fire. Here's the psychological truth that the Torah understood thousands of years before modern neuroscience confirmed it. Anxiety literally rewires your brain to see scarcity instead of opportunity. In Hebrew, there's a concept called Yetzer Hara, often mistranslated as evil inclination. But what it really means is the inclination toward fragmentation, the part of you that sees yourself as separate, alone, and in competition with everyone else for limited resources. When anxiety dominates your financial life, this fragmented thinking takes over. You start believing there isn't enough to go around. You start hoarding instead of sharing. You start competing instead of collaborating. And ironically, this mindset creates the exact scarcity you're afraid of. Let me explain the neuroscience behind this. When you're in a state of financial anxiety, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, hijacks your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational decision-making, long-term planning, and creative problem-solving. In this hijacked state, you literally cannot see opportunities that are right in front of you. Your perception narrows to threats only. You become hypervigilant about what could go wrong, and you miss what's going right. You interpret neutral situations as dangerous. You push away the very people and possibilities that could help you. Research shows that chronic financial anxiety reduces your IQ by an average of 13 points. equivalent to losing a full night's sleep or being mildly intoxicated. Would you make your most important financial decisions while drunk or sleep deprived? Of course not. But that's exactly what you're doing when you operate from anxiety. The Torah teaches something profound in the story of the spies sent to scout the Promised Land. 10 of the 12 spies came back terrified, saying, "We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and that's how we appeared to them." Notice the order. First they saw themselves as small, then others saw them as small. Your internal anxiety about money creates an external reality of scarcity. When you believe you're not worthy of abundance, you unconsciously sabotage opportunities. You underprice your services. You accept less than you deserve. You don't negotiate. You don't ask for raises. You stay in situations that undervalue you because deep down you believe you're a grasshopper. And here's the devastating truth. God can't bless what you won't receive. The universe can present you with 1,000 opportunities, but if anxiety has convinced you that you're small, you'll be too afraid to take them. This is why anxiety blocks blessings, not because God is withholding from you, but because you're withholding from yourself. In the Torah, there's a powerful principle called histadlut, which means personal effort or initiative. But it's not just any effort, it's disciplined, aligned, purposeful action. The teaching goes like this. God meets you in your effort, not in your worry. When you show up with discipline, when you do your part consistently and faithfully, divine assistance shows up to multiply your results. But notice what this requires. You have to show up first. You have to light the flame. God doesn't respond to your anxiety about starting. He responds to your discipline of actually starting. This is why the morning sacrifice in the temple had to be offered at the same time every single day. It wasn't about the sacrifice itself. It was about the discipline of showing up consistently, regardless of how you felt. Think about what discipline actually looks like in your financial life. It means you track every dollar that comes in and every dollar that goes out, not obsessively, but consistently. It means you have a budget that reflects your values, and you honor it even when you want to impulse buy. It means you invest in your skills and education regularly, even when you're not seeing immediate returns. It means you save a percentage of every single paycheck, no matter how small, because discipline is about the pattern, not the amount. It means you show up to do your work with excellence, even on days when you don't feel inspired. It means you keep your commitments to yourself and others, even when it's inconvenient. This steady, reliable, consistent action is what creates the container for blessings to accumulate. Without the container of discipline, blessings flow through your life like water through a sieve. You might have moments of abundance, but you can't hold on to them. Here's what's miraculous about discipline. It changes your relationship with time. Anxiety makes you feel like you're always behind, always rushing, always playing catch-up. Discipline puts you ahead of your own needs. When you're disciplined with your money, you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You're living on last month's income. When you're disciplined with your skills, you're not scrambling for work. Opportunities are seeking you out. When you're disciplined with your health, you're not reacting to crisis. You're proactively creating vitality. The Torah teaches that the manna in the wilderness appeared every morning, but the people had to go out and gather it. God provided, but they had to participate. Your discipline is your participation in your own abundance. And when God sees you showing up consistently, faithfully, doing your part without drama or panic, He meets you there. Not because you earned it through perfection, but because you created the conditions through consistency. This is the flame that attracts prosperity. Now let's get extremely practical, because principles without practices are just philosophy. The Torah gives us a framework for financial discipline that's been tested for millennia, and it works whether you're making $20,000 a year or $2 million. The framework is called ma'aser, which most people know as tithing, giving 10% of your income. But here's what most people miss. Tithing isn't about the giving. Tithing is about the discipline of having a system that you follow no matter what. It's about training yourself to let money flow through you instead of stopping with you. It's about proving to yourself and to God that you're not controlled by scarcity. When you can give away 10% consistently, even when you're afraid, you break the grip of anxiety and step into the realm of disciplined abundance. But the Maaser system doesn't stop at giving. In traditional Jewish financial wisdom, you divide your income into clear categories: 10% for tzedakah, giving, 10% minimum for savings and investment, and the remaining 80% for living expenses. Notice what this does psychologically. It creates boundaries. One of the biggest reasons people struggle financially is that they have no financial boundaries. Every dollar is available for every purpose, which means money becomes chaotic and stressful. When you have clear categories and clear percentages, decision-making becomes simple. Should you buy that thing you don't need? Well, it would come out of your living expense budget, which is already allocated. The decision is made by the system, not by your emotions in the moment. This is discipline in action. You're not fighting with yourself every time you see something you want. You're following a system that you've committed to, and the system protects you from your impulses. Here's the most powerful part of this framework. It works at any income level. If you're making $1,000 a month, you give $100, save $100, and live on $800. If you're making $100,000 a month, you give $10,000, save $10,000, and live on $80,000. The percentages stay the same because the principle isn't about the amount, it's about the pattern. This is what the eternal flame looks like in practical terms. It doesn't matter if the flame is small or large. What matters is that it burns consistently. And here's what happens over time when you maintain this discipline. Your capacity expands. Your income grows because you're operating from abundance instead of scarcity. Your savings compound because you're feeding them consistently. Your giving creates connections and opportunities because generosity opens doors that hoarding closes. Your stress decreases because you're working with a system instead of making it up as you go. You become someone that God can trust with more because you've proven you can steward what you have. This is the practical architecture of disciplined wealth, and it's available to you right now at whatever level you're at. Here's the paradox that confuses most people. True financial discipline isn't about control, it's about surrender. The anxiety-driven approach to money is actually an attempt to control outcomes through worry and manipulation. You're trying to force results, manage every variable, predict every possibility, and eliminate all risk. This exhausting approach to life keeps you in perpetual stress and, ironically, keeps you poor. Disciplined surrender, on the other hand, means you do your part faithfully and trust the process to produce results. You control what you can control, your effort, your consistency, your integrity, and you surrender what you can't control: timing, other people's responses, market conditions, unexpected events. This isn't passivity, this is wisdom. This is what the Torah calls bitachon. Trust that when you align with divine principles, the universe supports you. Let me tell you about the difference between striving and discipline. Anxious striving says, I have to make this happen or I'm doomed. It's desperation. It's trying to pull outcomes toward you through force of will. It's saying yes to everything because you're afraid of missing out. It's working 80 hours a week because you don't believe 40 is enough. It's checking your investments every hour because you don't trust the process. It's grinding yourself into dust because you think God rewards suffering. But the Torah never says God rewards anxiety or exhaustion. The Torah says God rewards Shabbat, rest. God rewards the discipline of stopping. The seventh day of creation wasn't the exhausted collapse of a tired deity. It was the confident rest of a creator who knew the work was complete. When you operate from disciplined surrender, you work hard during your work time, and you rest completely during your rest time. You trust that 6 days of focused, disciplined effort produces more than 7 days of anxious scrambling. Here's what happens when you shift from anxious striving to disciplined surrender. Your results improve because you're working with clarity instead of desperation. Your relationships improve because you're present instead of consumed by financial worry. Your health improves because chronic stress isn't destroying your body anymore. Your creativity explodes because your mental energy isn't being drained by constant anxiety. You start attracting opportunities that align with your values instead of grabbing at anything that pays. You make better decisions because you're not operating from panic. Your life starts to feel like partnership with the divine instead of lonely struggle against the universe. This is what the eternal flame produces: sustainable, aligned, blessed prosperity. Not the frantic boom and bust cycle of anxiety-driven striving, but the steady accumulation of wealth that comes from disciplined participation in divine abundance. The flame that awakens prosperity isn't the wildfire of panic. It's the steady flame of discipline, and that flame, once lit, never has to go out. So here's your challenge for this week, my friend. I want you to choose one area of your financial life where anxiety has been running the show, and I want you to replace it with a discipline. Not three areas. One. Maybe it's tracking your spending every single day. Maybe it's setting up automatic transfers to savings, so the decision is made by the system, not by your willpower. Maybe it's sitting down every Sunday to review your finances instead of avoiding them. Maybe it's committing to give a specific percentage no matter what, proving to yourself that you're not controlled by fear. Choose one discipline, commit to it for 7 days, and watch what happens. I promise you, when you light the flame of discipline and keep it burning steadily, God takes notice. Not because you've earned His attention, but because you've created the conditions for blessing to flow. Remember, your anxiety about money isn't protecting you, it's imprisoning you. Your discipline with money isn't restricting you, it's liberating you. The Torah has been teaching this for over 3,000 years, and it's as true today as it was then. God responds to the eternal flame, not the strange fire. He responds to your faithful consistency, not your frantic efforts. He responds to your disciplined participation, not your anxious control. The life you want, the prosperity you're seeking, the peace you're craving, it's all available to you. But it requires you to put down the strange fire of anxiety and pick up the eternal flame of discipline. Your soul is the blueprint. Your life is the construction. Shalom, my friends. Now go light the flame that awakens prosperity.